Hi, my name is John Rauch, and I'm the children's pastor at Grace Community Church here in Goshen, and I'm excited to be with you today at this DJ Lunch and Learn. Sorry that I can't be there in person. I got mixed up on my dates, and I'm actually out of town the date of the event. But I still wanted to come and talk to you for a few minutes about a really important ministry that we have here at Grace that we call Through the Roof. It's a ministry for families that have a child who has special needs. In fact, just yesterday, we didn't start with a great Through the Roof ministry. In fact, it's still something that we're really developing and working on. So I want to be really careful to not set us up as a model ministry, okay? We're doing the best we can just like you are. And actually, like most ministries, they happen because there's some sort of need or some sort of problem. And I'll never forget a Sunday, probably about 9 or 10 years ago, when I was just really embarrassed that we could not help accommodate a child and their family. And that's really what started Through the Roof ministry. And so if that's where you feel like you're at, that's okay. That's where you are. And I want to help you get to a place where you can minister to that child and you have some answers for that family. A couple things that I want to tell you guys about, and I'm going to keep it real simple. I'm going to have 3 main areas I want to talk about, and I'm going to give you 3 thoughts within those areas. So just to keep it really easy for you. The first thing that I want to talk about is the why. Why would we do a Through the Roof or a special needs type ministry for children? Well, first of all, you probably know the statistics, right? 1 out of every 50 children in America is somewhere on the autism spectrum disorder. Right? So that is something that probably you've heard in the news or you've seen, or maybe you have children already in your ministry or children in your child's school, and so you know that that's happening. A couple other stats to give you. A 2005 census showed that actually 1 in 5 Americans have some sort of disability. That's not just children, but total adults. 1 out of 5 have some sort of disability. Something that is growing and is being diagnosed more and more in our country. That same census from 2005 showed us that 14% of children between the ages of 3 and 17 have some sort of developmental disability. That's 14% between the ages of 3 and 17. So you know the children that are there in our community are looking for a place where they're accepted. And unfortunately, most churches aren't ready yet to accept that child and their family. Here's another reason why, though. So that's the stats that we see. That's why we need to have a ministry like this. Here's another why. Because Jesus loves people with disabilities. I don't know when the last time you reflected on New Testament was, but when you think back to all the things that Jesus did and all the miracles that he performed and all the love that he showed to people, think back and reflect on how many of those people that he touched was someone who had a disability. Think back to all the recorded miracles. Now we know that all the miracles aren't recorded, right? John says that if he were to write everything down that Jesus did, right, it could fill the whole world, the pages. But think about the miracles that are recorded and how many of them were for people who had some sort of disability. Jesus loved people with disability. He still loves people with disabilities. And so any time that we're ministering to a child or to a family that has a person with a disability, we are doing ministry that Jesus loves and that Jesus would do if he were here today living in our county. And so that's why it's important to us. And here's another reason why. Not only the stats say that we need to do it, not only does Jesus love people with disabilities, but the third thing is that you will be incredibly blessed if you do. Your church will, your volunteers will, even your children the other children that are in your church's ministry will. The kids that are here in Kid City love their buddies that are in Through the Roof. They love hanging out with them. They love the dynamic that they add to the class. It is just so gratifying for me as a volunteer, as a parent, as a leader, to see the children Through the Roof interacting with our ministry. So that's the why. The second area that I want to talk about is the how. So we talked about the why. Now we're going to talk about the how. How do you actually have a ministry for families with a child that has special needs? I'm going to give you 3 simple things. Here's number 1. Parents, all right, and children, but I'm going to say parents especially, need a clear message from your church. And here's what the message that they need. They need to know that your child is loved and accepted. That message is so critical to families feeling that, hearing that, seeing that in all kinds of ways, that their child is going to be loved at your church and that their child is going to be accepted. Remember that most families that have a child with special needs didn't know that their child was going to have those unique things about them, those unique traits. They didn't maybe plan for that. And so there's a process that they're having to work through. There's a process that they're having to go through. And the last thing that they need is to have their church family come alongside and say, we're not sure there's a place for your child here. We're not sure there's a place for you here. So very clearly, they need a message from you as a leader in your church, and then from your church as well, that says, your child is loved here. Your child is accepted here. We have a great place for your child. We love them. That's going to be critical. Number two, here's the how. Parents need more than just accepting words. They need to see an action plan. How frustrating is it sometimes when you talk with a person, you feel like you have communicated clearly with them on what you are trying to communicate, and they empathize with you, but then you never see them actually do anything after that conversation. That's the story that a lot of parents sometimes have with their churches. Their churches are very caring. They'll say those words I just gave to you about communicating care and acceptance for the child, but then they'll never see them actually do anything. There's no action plan. There's no follow-through. So number two is parents need to see just a simple action steps that you are taking on behalf of their child. And here's something that I've totally learned, all right? Because we get it wrong more than we get it right when it comes to, how we're going to fix this, or how we're going to do this, or how we're going to help accommodate their child. But when a parent sees our message that we really do love them and we're trying to care for them, and they see that we're actually doing something, even if it's the wrong thing, they see that we're doing something, they are usually so full of grace and so willing to work with us to help us to get it right. And so I would just say, first of all, they need to hear that message that they're loved, their child is loved and accepted. Then they need to see some action steps. And so the third thing then is you just need a simple plan of care. A simple plan of care. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be super complex or complicated. As we share with you what we do here at Grace, you're going to see that our plan is very simple. It is very basic, but it's hitting the critical things that we need to accomplish. So you need to have that message communicated that kids are loved and accepted. You need to have a simple plan of action. That's going to be really critical. And the third thing I want to talk to you about today are resources. How can I help you? What are some resources that you need as you're thinking, okay, I'm here with you saying, John, I already know that we need a special needs ministry. I just don't know where to get started. Well, I want to give you just some simple things. First of all, Tim Welling is there with you today at this Lunch and Learn, and he is our volunteer coordinator for our Through the Roof ministry. Just like you, I have my hands in all kinds of stuff going on in kids ministry. And so there's no way that I could do all of this. And so we have a volunteer coordinator who oversees our Through the Roof. He cares for our volunteers that help in there. He also cares for our families and our children that are plugged into our Through the Roof ministry. He communicates with them. He loves them. He shepherds them. All those kinds of things. He's going to walk you through the simple process that we have. I have a bunch of handouts, or that Tim does, that he's going to get in your hands today to walk you through our plan. And so Tim will do that here in a few moments. A couple other great resources, Johnny and Friends. You've probably heard of Johnny Erickson Tata, and she has a tremendous website, johnnyandfriends.org, that has all kinds of resources for you to gain from. All kinds of even forms and everything that you would need to get started. She also has conferences that are in the area and other training types events. And I'm sure there are other resources, but Johnny and Friends has been a great one for us. And the third resource that I want to tell you about is this is a new book. There's lots of great books, but this is a brand new one that came out. 252 Basics put this out, and I know you probably know who they are with their curriculum. Leading Special Needs Ministry by Amy Fenton Lee. And this is a really practical guide. Man, it starts with how to care with compassion. Then it kind of gives you ideas on how to get started, what are some of the stats that are out there, and then how to have an effective plan. Very, very good resource. It's only 150 or so pages, 150 pages, and so very easy read, very practical. You could knock this out pretty quick, and it would give you a pretty good understanding of special needs ministry. So that's one resource. Johnny Erickson Tata is a resource, and then again, Tim is going to talk you through some of these forms that we have, that we've come up with, that we're going to give to you. Very, very basic on how we do our Through the Roof ministry. Let me just close by saying that, again, coming back to this point, that you will be incredibly blessed by this ministry if you choose to have one there in your church. The first family that was ever involved in our Through the Roof ministry, I'll never forget when I was interviewing the mom, and our volunteer coordinator was there as well, and the volunteer coordinator at the time, her name was Sue. Sue asked Lori, she said, what do you think Chase's understanding of who Jesus is? What do you think he knows about God? And I'll never forget the look on Lori's face as she just kind of paused, and then tears kind of started to come down her face, and she said, No one has ever asked me that question before. No one has ever asked me, what does my child know about God? Normally, people are just trying to accommodate and trying to kind of just help him not mess anything else up. But here were some people that actually cared about the spiritual life of their child and about the eternal destination of their child. And so I'll never forget that. You will bless so many people. You'll be blessed yourself if you start some kind of ministry with special needs. If I can be of any more help, please don't hesitate to contact me. In the documents that Tim is passing out is my contact information. I would love to have a conversation with you. Please give me a call or an email, and if we can help in any way, we definitely want to do that. Thanks for the time that you gave me today.